All right. The name is Delman, aka Four Eyes, the Ugly Professor, doing the new album review for Slick Rick's Victory. This album review is done on behalf of Old Heads Network. All right, it's only right on the Old Heads channel on YouTube that we're doing a review for Slick Rick, who is 60 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And I never thought that Slick Rick would put out another album again, a new album again. I just thought he was done with the album making process. He would never put out another album. And for him to put out another album when his last one before this new one came out in the late 90s is crazy to me. And before we even start, he still sounds good. He still can rap his ass off. He still got the voice, the flow. So that's still intact, even at at his 60-year-old age. And Slick Rick is the godfather of storytelling in hip hop. Now, me personally, I don't have him as the best storyteller ever in hip hop, but if someone was to say he is the best, I wouldn't even debate him, because he is the godfather. I do acknowledge that. I do recognize he's the one that really, he's not the first to tell stories in a rap, but he is the godfather. You know, for me, my personal favorites and the ones that I think that are the best at storytelling in hip hop, Nas #1 and probably Ice Cube second. So, but Slick Rick is the godfather of storytelling in hip hop. And I remember hearing Slick Rick for the first time in like 1985, if I'm not mistaken, with the song The Show with Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew. Then he had Lottie Dottie, where Dougie Fresh was doing the beatbox on the joint. And I'm from the DMV area, Southern Avenue, right across the street from my apartment complex that I grew up was Southeast DC. So all we heard was, around that time, I remember all I'm hearing when I go outside as a kid is go-go music, The Show, and Lottie Dottie. That song played, those two songs played a lot along with go-go in the area that I'm from. So I heard that song a lot as a kid. It got a lot of play in my area, and it was a big hip hop song. Those two were two big hip hop songs, period, in general, through our culture nationwide at that time. So it wasn't just in my area or New York. And he has like 4 albums, 5 including his new joint in his discography. You know, that's a short number of albums for his long career, being he's been in this game since the mid 80s. But his first solo album came out in 1988, the classic, the bona fide classic, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. You got The Rulers Back in 1991, which wasn't a good album. It wasn't. You know, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick was a classic, bona fide classic. No one could deny that. But his second album, The Rulers Back, I didn't think it was that good. I didn't even think it was that good back then when I bought it on cassette back in 1991. It had 2 or 3 songs that I really liked out of the few songs that I like on the album. You had Mistakes of a Woman in Love with Other Men. I think that was the second single he had a video for. I really dig that song, and I dig I Shouldn't Have Done It. I think that was the first single when he had a video for that album. Those 2 songs was banging. I liked the first song on the album called The King. So they was like the few songs that I liked on the album. Then you had the Behind Bars joint that dropped in 1994. I didn't think that was a good album even at the time, and I bought it on cassette back in the day. The only songs that I liked was the title track, Behind Bars, and the joint he did with Nice and Smooth. Other than that, I didn't care for that album. But then in 1999, he dropped The Art of Storytelling. Now that was a very solid album. That was a good comeback from them 2 mishaps, should I say. But he was going through some shit during those 2 albums, his second and third one. He was incarceration and all kinds of shit. But I'll talk about that later on this review. And like I said, he did 5 years in prison for second-degree attempted murder. He shot his first cousin, who used to work for him as a bodyguard, but I think he was extorting Slick Rick and threatening him and other members of the family. So Slick Rick ended up shooting up his door, and he shot him, and he shot an innocent bystander in the foot, I believe, and that happened in 1990. Then Russell Simmons, who was like the head of Def Jam Records at the time, which Slick Rick was on Def Jam, he bailed him out, and I believe like 1991, he bailed him out, and that's when he came and did, I guess he did the Rulers Back. So I guess that's why that album is not up to par like I think it should have been at the time. So that could have been the issue. And then, he got released out of prison in 1997. So Behind Bars was kind of like put together in 1994 while he was behind bars, so to speak. So, and then in 2002, he was arrested again by immigrations, which he did another 17 months. So he's had his issues in that department, getting locked up and shit. Things of that nature. Then Homeland Security was attempting to deport him back to the United Kingdom, the UK, where he's born, in 2006. But I don't think they were successful. I think he went through a lot of shit in the courts or whatever, but I don't know the full story with that, but they did try to deport him to the UK in 2006. And between the albums that the album he did in 1999 and this new one, he has done features. So he has been active. He hasn't done a ton of features, but he's done his share of features, enough where he made his presence felt. Like every once in a while he would pop up on somebody's joint. And he has done features for De La Soul on a joint called What We Do, which is a bang. I love that song. It's a very funny song. It's a story type joint. I dig it. If you haven't heard it, go online and check that out. That's by De La Soul. By De La Soul, called What We Do, featuring Slick Rick. Then he had another joint he was featured on called The Sun, which was a Ghostface Killer song, which featured Slick Rick, Raekwon, and I believe RZA. That joint is a banger. It was supposed to be on the Bulletproof Wallet album, but it didn't make it due to sample clearance. They wasn't able to clear the sample that they used, but it then appeared on something later on a Ghostface, like Lost Tapes type of joint that he put out, and they put that joint on there. But that joint is a banger. Then he did a joint with Mos Def. I think the name of that joint was I forgot the name of that joint, but it's on Mos Def's third solo album, and that joint was a banger. It's like every time Slick Rick get on a feature, he elevates the song, and that was one of those songs that he elevate. Mos Def is already nice. The song was tight. I think Mad Lib did the production on the joint, and then when Slick Rick came on, it just elevated the joint. I forgot the name of the song. Then he did 2 songs with Westside Gunn, which was a surprise. Then he did another joint, which was a DJ Premier like EP compilation album that he did, celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. I think the name of that song was called The Root of It All, featuring Lil Wayne and Slick Rick. That was a solid joint. Then you had Metropolis, which he did for DJ Muggs for his one of his albums. I think one of them Soul Assassin albums. I think maybe the 3rd Soul Assassin album, if I'm not mistaken. So he on a joint with DJ Muggs, did the production. Then he did a joint I almost forgot that he did, called Hip Hop Police with Chamillionaire in the 2000s. That was a nice song too. That was a surprise too. He getting featured on Chamillionaire joint, who was from the South, Texas, I believe. Houston, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere in Texas. Anyway, so with this new album, Idris Elba, the actor, He's executive producer on this joint. You know, he from The Wire fame and Stringer Bell and the Luther series. If you're familiar with Luther, if you're not, you need to watch them joints. Some joints is good. A few seasons for that. And I was surprised that Slick Rick did all the production on this new album. Well, he did production on every song, but he has help. But I was surprised because going into this album, I was like, oh, I wonder who's going to do the production on this joint. I wonder who they're going to get production from. But he did the production on every song with the help of other folks. So I was surprised by that. And the album, it has 15 tracks total, but there are only like 11 actual songs on the joint. You have you have some like interlude type joints where it's not really no music. It's just like talking in between like songs here and there. So it's only really like 11 actual songs on the album. And the album total is only like, it's not even 30 minutes. I think it's like 26 minutes and some change. And I like a lot of the songs on the album, the actual songs. Like some of the standout songs is Stress. I like Stress. And I like Angelical, and I like Foreign, which has like a dance hall style of beat to it. Sonically, it has a dance hall vibe to it. Then you got Spirit to Cry. I like that joint. You got Slick Rick kind of like singing on the hooks and shit. Then you got Documents, which features Nas. That's probably my favorite song on the album. Then you got a joint called So You Are Having My Baby. It's a good storytelling joint. We're Not Losing. He gets a little political, socially conscious on that song. I like that joint. And some of these songs are short. Like I would say like half of them are only like a minute and some change. So that's another reason why the album total is so short in length, because some of the songs are only like a minute and some seconds. Then you got another joint I like called Another Great Adventure, which Q-Tip does some of the production on that joint, if not most of it. And Slick Rick helps on the production on that joint as well. So I was surprised to see Q-Tip doing any production on this album. And the only songs that I didn't like were the two hip-hop house songs. Now, hip-hop house was a big thing during like the late 80s, early 90s. I never was really a fan of hip-hop house joints. Like, there's a few, like I think Jungle Brothers has the best one, in my opinion. Girl, I House You, You in My Hut Now. That's my favorite like hip-hop house joint. And I did like the Twin Hype song called Do It to the Crowd. I used to like that song so much I was gonna buy their cassette. And then I found out like the majority of the album was gonna be hip-hop house. And I was like, nah, I'm good. Then you had the King Son joint that I used to like. I forgot the name of that joint. But he had a video for that. I used to like that song. That was one of the few songs on his cassette that I liked, because I went and bought his cassette as well. And I didn't really care for it. But the hip hop house joint, oddly enough, was one of the few songs I liked on his album. But there only been like a few that were good. Like EPMD tried to do it. That song wasn't no good. I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. So I didn't like the two hip hop house songs on Slick Rick new album. I won't be listening to those. So I'll be skipping those songs. And then it was another song called Landlord, which I love. I thought it was a great concept. It was different. Never really heard nothing like that in hip hop. You know, you've heard of hip hop artists owning property and being kind of like landlords, so to speak, and renting out apartments and houses, but you never heard nobody really talk about it in a song. So he talks about like trying to collect rent from people, how all the shit he gotta go through to collect rent, and they not keeping up the property, they fucking up the place, things of that nature. So I thought it was a great concept, great story, but I did not like the beat. I did not care for the production of the joint. So that's a joint I gotta be in the mood to listen to. Like sometimes I'll skip it, Sometimes I just let it ride. But I have to say, when I first heard this album, I thought it was just okay. I was like, it's just okay. But after I listened to it a few times more, I like it even more than I did initially. So at first I was like, it's a C plus, B minus. But after I listened to it a few more times, I'm bumping it up to a B minus to B grade. It's like real close to a B. I'm just gonna give it a B, but it barely hits that B mark. You know, I was thinking B minus, but I get it up to a B, but it just gets to that B grade after listening to it several times. But initially I was thinking like, man, this is a C plus, maybe B minus at best, but it grew on me. So that's it. Salute to Slick Rick for putting out an album at the age of 60 when he hadn't put out an album until now, till like the late 90s, 1999. Didn't think he would ever put out another album again. Mass Appeal. Gonna have a lot of releases this year. I think Nas is involved with the running or the owning of that label. He already put out Wrong Streets and Conductor's Joint, which I have reviewed. You can find that on YouTube. They putting out Ghostface Joint. He supposed to be putting out Supreme Clientele Part 2. You got Raekwon putting out another album on Mass Appeal this year. A Big L joint is getting put out by Mass Appeal. I didn't think Big L had any more verses where they could put a whole album together with him, even with a bunch of features. I didn't think they had enough verses left for that. So that's a surprise. And then you got the Nas and Premier joint that's supposed to come out this year. Looking forward to that. And De La Soul supposed to come out with another album this year on Mass Appeal as well. That's going to be different too, with no Dave. Rest in peace to Dave. That's going to be interesting to see how they make an album without Dave's present, and if it could be just as good as the old De La Soul albums. So that's it. I'm done. I'm finished. Subscribe, like, and all that good shit. And I'm out.
Look, mission impossible to drop a few lines without dropping old times when Southern Hill was still a gold mine. When pistol grips was my shit and I sold mine. When Alias was not a show and they told mine. Elevate your mind with high quality THC infused products. BlackYeti.com. Black-Yeti.com.
CLB.